So during the medieval era, around the 13th century, the height of education was conceived of as a sevenfold development. And the ideal of the medieval system of education was the 7 liberal arts. And the notion of the 7 liberal arts is that these are fields of learning necessary for a free soul, necessary for the true liberation of the soul through education. The true freedom of the human person can be attained through the mastery of these 7 liberal arts, hence the free arts. So let's talk a bit about the 7 liberal arts. So the first division between them is between the 4 and the 3. And so we have the Trivium and the Quadrillium. The Trivium is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. So that's grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And you think about this Trivium for a moment. If one truly had mastery over these 3 powers of the soul, then that would afford one a great degree of freedom, because the persuasive power of their speech would be so heightened. There would be a logical coherence and rationality to what they are saying. There would be a grammatical and linguistic coherence. The specific words they chose to say would make sense, and the specific sentences would make sense, and the paragraphs, and there would be a general mastery of the language, their native language, or the language which they are using to convey an idea. And of course, there would be rhetoric. Rhetoric is more specifically the persuasive power, this power for me to persuade you to a point of view, to give you plausible arguments and reasons for taking up this view. Persuading, moving, the way in which communication moves others and impacts the polis, the city, the community, the social world in which we live. And so this Trivium is a very powerful thing already, right? And how this applies is that I feel that all of this is eminently practical, for the simple reason that each of these arts, each of these domains, each of these activities is an activity that we can, if we so choose, pursue, explore, and develop consciously. And if we do so, and if we take a clue from our ancestors, this may lead to an increase in our freedom. But perhaps we could go into the concept of freedom at another time. For now, let me just say that mastery of the Trivium would make someone a powerful communicator in person, in their speech, but also in their writing. The grammar, the logic, and the rhetoric would come through in their writing, come through in their speech. And so this applies to you. This applies to the emails you write. This applies to the letters you write. This applies to the speeches and the speeches you make within your family, within friendships, within broader communities of interest. The way in which speech is used bears upon this Trivium, and the person with a greater grasp of the logic, the grammar, and the rhetoric will win arguments, and the one without a grasp of those domains will not, because of the way in which human reason is structured. So let's go on to the quadrivium now, the other part of the 7 liberal arts. So this relates to the notion, the Pythagorean notion, that there is an order and harmony to the cosmos. How this order found expression would depend. And so we can think of these 4 arts and these 4 fields as ways of coming to know and coming to understand this ordered cosmos. So one way is through music, which is one of the quadrivium. Music is the study of number in time, or of pattern in time. Geometry, geometry is number or pattern in space. So the aesthetics of a cathedral facade is beauty is rendered visually through mastery of geometric patterns. Even if these geometric patterns are violated or inverted somehow by the artists, even so, a mastery of them and a knowledge of them to violate them aesthetically is needed. So there is a way in which the artist, the visual artist, is appreciating the order of number or pattern or regularity in space. The musician is doing the same thing with time. Then we have a third one, which is astrology or astronomy. So looking at the regularities above in the heavens, the patterns of the sky, the patterns of the moon and the sun, and the different planets. So heaven gazing. And the 4th branch is another mathematical branch, I'm pretty sure, which is arithmetic. And so that's, I guess, a more down-to-earth application of these patterns, the regularities of pattern in our daily transaction, in financial dealings, or just in the management of systems generally, arithmetic, calculation, understanding the progressions within number itself, understanding the pattern of mathematics itself and how that exhibits a kind of harmony and a kind of order. So quick summation of the quadrivium is that there's a way in which we are coming to know and coming to understand regularities and patterns and orders in time, music, space, geometry, number itself, arithmetic, or mathematics, pure mathematics, perhaps. Those are not the same thing. I'm not an expert in that field, and it's probably the weakest of the 7 for me. So I invite any comment or input on this one. And of course, astrology, which is a very ancient way of looking at regularity in the heavens. Anyway, so I wanted to make that video because it's a very interesting ideal and image and system. And I found that in my life, the degree to which I cultivate and pursue mastery in any of these areas is the degree to which I feel my soul to be expanding and a greater degree of creative possibility and freedom opening up before me. Is it to do with the expression of my soul? Perhaps it's something like that, because with grammar, with logic, with rhetoric, there can be a way in which I can express through YouTube. So, for example, this whole channel is in a way predicated on that trivium, that kind of communicative trinity, which is so vital for sharing ideas in the way that I do on YouTube. Yeah, I also released a video yesterday, I think, which was just some of the music that I've been making. And that's a separate project to this YouTube channel, to be fair, but it is just still a way of exploration, a way of knowing the world that is very different to the communicative, rational, linguistic element of like what I'm doing right now. Do you see? Information is in another way in music. It's more about emotion, it's more about feeling. And it's also about how those things are related to a sort of liturgy or dance, the way number processes through time. Anyway, I won't go too deep into all of this because there can be experts in every field, but I quite like this as a holistic image of education, something to aspire to. My weak point's mathematics, for sure, and I think my arithmetic could be better than it is. But I do aspire to, I keep this image in mind. I like to think about it and reflect on it. And I do aspire to embody each of these virtues to the degree that it's possible. And I really like that as an image of a complete education. Are there other images? Are there other things that it misses? Yeah, perhaps. I just love this one, and so I wanted to share it with you guys. Would love to know what any of you think about all of this. But I think it's a very dignified image. I love it that music's there because music is so important. Music's there, geometry's there. You know, the people who did the Renaissance and built the cathedrals and the buildings around Italy, and they were masters of geometry. The great works of beauty are produced by masters of geometry, people who had mastered that art. And then there's the persuasive power of rhetoric and the way in which logic, convinces, and rhetoric, logic, grammar, the importance of language, the importance of things like spelling. You know, they just are important, like spelling, syntax, the way words go together, where words come from, what they mean, the whole question of words. I think that's all kind of connected in with this notion of grammar. I won't recap all of them here, but hopefully this was a helpful video on the 7 liberal arts. Thanks for watching.